when I saw that the front fender went underwater, that's when it started to go, boy, that was stupid. I see the time has run out because it has now cracked off. It really does suck at speeds above 40 miles an hour. Wanted to do an update since the first one I did as far as the ownership experience. I've had another, well, whatever I've got in the, whatever I call the report, however many miles I end up with at the end of this ride. First thing I wanted to point out is that windscreen extension that I put on definitely does a great job, but it is cracking the original screen. So I'm seeing these stress cracks right here. They're growing a little bit, so I know my time is limited for how long I can run with this extension. It's just not, it's not going to last a long time. Haven't checked lately to see if there's anything new on the market that I could get. I've talked to some people about the new 890 Adventure S screen, or 890 Adventure, and you know, one person really likes it, but he is 5 inches shorter than me, so not sure that that's going to work, because the people that have been taller than me felt it was noisy, which is the same problem I had with the R screen. So I don't know that the new Adventure screen is going to work, and I haven't seen anything off market yet or aftermarket, but there may be something. The next thing I had mentioned was the seat, and I put the cool cover on it, and I gotta say that's been a disappointment. I really like the cool cover. I run it on my Super Adventure S. It makes all the difference in the world. My wife runs it on her GS 750. It helps a lot, but that's a really hot bike, and it doesn't go all the way, but it does help her. And on the 890R, the cool cover definitely, I think it's better at speed. Like, I'm going decent speed right now. It seems to be working. But when I'm off-road and I'm slow and I'm going through the mud, or, you know, going the water crossing speed and all that, I get really sweaty if it's, say, getting in the higher 70s and all. So I don't know that the cool cover is the answer. Also, it changes the pressure points that I feel on the stock seat. I said before, the stock seat wasn't inspired to change it, because, you know, I could do 5 or 6 hours on it with no problem. The way the cool cover has changed where the pressure points are, jury's out on that again, if that's going to work. Today is also the first time I'm trying out the new GPS location. Finally gave up on KTM delivering the above the TFT screen, and bought something, I'm going to say this wrong, but it's like Vanache or something like that. I'd seen it on ADV. The guys were really liking it. It's definitely a sturdy piece. I'm looking at it. This is the first ride with it. This is my shakedown ride. I've got a big ride coming up this weekend, so I'm shaking down my gear. I'm shaking down the new equipment. I have a giant loop on the back of the bike. Hold on, let's get past these people here. Strange place to hang out in the middle of a stop sign. Okay, interesting. So I've got a giant loop right now. It's not the biggest one, it's the second biggest one. I'm trying that out for the first time, because I've got an event coming up that I'm leaving for in 4 days, going to the 2023 Romney Cycles Camp and Ride, and I'm thinking I'm taking the 890. Originally I was going to take the 1290, but what I figured out is I have the ability to lead different kinds of rides if I bring the 890, or if I take the 1290 I'm going to stick to pavement. But with the 890, I can do a pavement, I can lead a pavement ride, I can lead a dirt ride, I can do any of that. So I'm thinking I'm going to take the 890. So this is a big shakedown ride for me. But I took everything off so I could put the GPS together. And what I looked at was, hold on here. What I looked at was, I took these two screws out here just to see how much room I had to slide the GPS wire through, and it's pretty tight with the wiring coming in for the TFT. And then when I looked inside the side, from the side, I looked inside the tower, it wasn't a clear shot to get there. So really spent some time thinking about it and decided how do I want to do this. Thought about the cap that's sitting there on the right side, and that is definitely a cheap part to replace. I mean, I haven't priced it, but it's just a little plastic plate. And so what I decided to do is I'm just going to go ahead and drill into that and put the wiring through there so that cap comes out real nice. It gives you access to the wires. I didn't have to take this side of the bike apart, but I did. I could have done it all through just going through the cap. So I decided, you know what, the wires aren't going to be in the way. Yeah, it may not be the most pretty setup or whatever, but that's not really my concern about having a GPS in here. So I ran the wires, used some zip tie adhesive mounts here so I could zip tie it all together, and it just made for a really easy setup. Took a grommet, cut the grommet, slit the grommet so I could put the wire around it, put the grommet in, put a little bit of silicone here. Prettiest thing? No, but that's okay. I want something that works. I didn't want to squeeze it in with the other wires. I don't like doing that. So routed it here. It's not going to get in the way. It's not going to get caught by anything. If I want to take it out, when I sell the bike, I'll sell the bike. But if I want to take it out, all I need to do is just take it out, put a new cap on there. Quite honestly, I just put a cap on top of it. It's a 1/2-inch hole. So that was an easier way to do it. Didn't need to take the side of the bike off, but now I know what that looks like when I take it off. So that was the setup for the GPS. Fuel tank pressure. This is one I find a little interesting. I saw a video on YouTube once that had a guy who had a camera set up, and he opened his fuel cap, and it was on an 890. I think it was an 890. It might have been a 790. It was one of those, and gas just came gushing out. Sprayed him in the face, sprayed him in the eyes. Really, just a devastating, damaging to the body type situation where you're sprayed in the face with gas, and just awful. So I figured that was something KTM knew about, was fixing. But I was riding up on Swearing Hill, at least that's what we call it, Swearing Hill, and I stopped for a break, and I heard this sound here. And I found that a little alarming, because as I pushed on the gas cap, you could hear it change pitch, and so you knew it was pressure in the gas tank. Asked on ADV, because somebody had just put a new gas cap on to take care of the gas tank issue. So I'm like, hasn't KTM fixed this? And the answer was, well, obviously not, because I was out again on another rough road. I was riding, doing some pre-riding for the event, and it's rough, it's muddy, it's slow, it's slogging along. And when I stopped here to go and check what the new feature was and how it looked, my microphone was hanging right next to the gas cap, and so you can hear it as I'm walking away, and you can hear the pressure coming out of the gas tank. People say if you open that, it's going to do what it did before. If you've ever seen the video on YouTube of the guy who got sprayed, so I have not even considered opening the gas cap when I'm hearing that, but I'm just surprised that hasn't been something it's been a product of a recall or something. The idea that, both times I probably had 50 miles out of the tank, and so probably a gallon of gas out of a full tank. and it's just sounding like that. If you got to worry about opening a gas cap, that's kind of insane that hasn't been taken care of. I've never opened the cap, so I can't say it will do it, but I'm uncomfortable enough to even consider it. So that's a surprise. I don't have the rights to the video of the guy who got sprayed in the face, but if you look and search, I'm sure you can find it. Okay, put it into traction control 3, or no, 6. Let's go to 5. Had 1.2 inches of rain in the last basically 24 hours or so. We'll see how this road is. The stream is along the road is certainly up a bit. That's the thing, I've been making all these videos, pre-ride videos for the Camp and Ride event, and it's been weeks since it's rained, and so the water was really low, and now here we are 4 or 5 days before the event starts. We get a couple, I think we're going to get more rain tomorrow, so we'll get a couple inches of rain, and made all these videos showing people how low the water is, and it may not be that way. Like I said, about the tires, I'm not sure that they're so great. I got to keep them. I mean, if I'm going to burn through tires every 2,000 miles or 2,500 or certainly less than 3,000, what is there a better tire for me to be using in this slick stuff and all? So not sure I'll stay with the E07. It's not like it's a fantastic mud tire. It's fine. But if it's not going to have any life left in it, I got to decide what can do the mud, but also hold the road. I mean, that's one thing. It's an amazing thing that I'm going to an event that I will probably lead a street ride, and I was planning to take the 1290, which is obviously a fantastic street bike, and lead on that. And the idea that I'm considering taking this and leading a street ride just speaks to how well I think this bike handles the road. It's pretty muddy here. How well whew. That's fun. How well this bike handles the road, and I got to give some of the credit to the E07, even though I feel it's a sketchy tire on certainly wet groove pavement. I had an interesting experience in Kansas City once with an E07 on a grooved road, and it's kind of ugly. I had to apologize to my wife for having to watch it as she was following me, and I was going crazy here. But this is one of those light mud situations that the E07's okay. I wouldn't call it a great tire, so I really got to figure out what I'm doing next. It's amazing how these light sheens of dirt or muddy road just get a little sketchy here. It's almost like you'd rather be going through mud holes than this light topping of mud. I've done a lot of water crossings since the first video I made talking about the ownership experience, and I guess that's more of a performance question as far as water crossings versus ownership, but just something I've noticed is this is an amazingly stable bike. When I went through that section in Douglas Road, I wanted to stop, walk through it, look at it, and, it looked like it could be sketchy, and for me, when I ended up riding through it, it was insane how easy it was. It was just I'd picked the line before I even rode it and all that, but when I did it, there's just zero drama on this bike. I mean, it's truly amazing. So when I went and did this water crossing here, all right, well, let's see how this one is. I haven't done this one before. Whoa. Gets kind of deep. After that water crossing, I looked down and I looked down. I saw where the water level got to on the tank and on my pants and everything else. It's like, wow, that was fairly high. And then I actually went through the video, and looked at it. And when I saw that the front fender went underwater, that's when it started to go, boy, that was stupid. Just really stupid to not walk the whole thing and check it out. I mean, when I think about how many inches I had left before I drowned the bike, and I didn't know a section that deep was going to be there. I just thought it had been so long since it rained it wouldn't be anything, but when I looked at the video and I saw that front fender hit, it's like, that was dumb. All right, well, it's a nice bumpy road to try out the giant loop and see if it stays connected, because there's some pretty good washboards on this. It's all washboard. See if I got a giant loop when I get to the end. And yes, I do on one side, and it feels like it's connected on the other, so that's good. So, okay, first washboarded out road, did a pretty good job. Okay, well, after that, I can say that the GPS mount, I mean, those are some really washed out roads, or washboarded roads, or rough. They're just a lot of shaking. This GPS mount is rock solid. No bouncing at all. I can't say that when I take my Super Adventure S up that. This particular one on the 890, again, the Nash, or however you say it, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, rock solid. I mean, it's sitting as solid as the TFT. It's good. If he makes it for the Super Adventure S to 2020, I may have to buy one of those too. So for $100 or whatever it was, $100 in shipping, I think it's a heck of a lot nicer than having the rat's nest that I had here before with the GPS on a Ram mountain arm and all that. It's just, this looks so much cleaner. Here's a nitpicky thing, and this is a nitpicky thing about the 890 compared to my other Super Adventure S and my wife's GS 750. Turning off the cruise control on this bike. On the other two bikes, when you want to turn off the cruise control, it's a very clear, you just roll the throttle forward. There's a little bit of play there, and you feel that, okay, I just rolled it past that neutral place and into the little tiny bit of play, and the cruise control comes right off. There is no play area on this throttle. You roll it forward and you kind of wonder, did I do it? I don't really care for that, but you know, again, it's all what you get used to, and maybe that's the modern way of doing it. My wife's is a 2019, my Super Adventure S is a 2020. Maybe that's just the way they've gone with it, that you just roll it into what feels like a hard stop, as opposed to this little tiny play area where there's a little bit of give, and you know, okay, I just turned off the cruise. On this one, it's just not as confidence inspiring. Again, maybe that's just the way modern, you know, what they've come up with is a more modern way of doing it. I got used to the old way, and I'll get used to this way, but I'm never as confident that I've just turned off the cruise as I am with the other two bikes. Well, as I was talking to somebody at the dealership, he identified himself as a former deputy sheriff from up where I grew up. He took one look at the giant loop, was looking around, I was telling him about it, and he's like, where should this be connected? So it did come disconnected. This GPS mount is really stable. It's done a really good job. I've done a lot of washboarded roads. It's been terrific. So really pleased with this GPS mount. The giant loop, on the other hand, I'm not sure if that disconnected just when I opened up the back of the bag to put something in it. If that's when it disconnected, because it could have moved forward at that point. But so far I'm reaching down, it feels like it's still connected, so I think I'm gonna give giant loop the benefit of the doubt and just say when you open it and release the pressure, that's when it came off. I knew my time was limited with this windscreen, and I see the time has run out because it has now cracked off. So the stress crack eventually broke all the way across, and so now my little windscreen is just hanging. So that's done. That was a good experiment while it lasted. Riding again with basically the stock R screen, and remembering how loud it is with the XD4, 50 miles an hour, and I don't even know if the microphone is picking me up right now because it's much louder, much less pleasant than it was. So let's see, I put that on and went to my first service, which would have been about mile 675, and it broke off somewhere around mile 2040-ish. So now that I've ridden along, just did a 55 mile an hour stretch, I've ridden along without the windshield extension. I'm back to basically the stock R screen, except for that little chip that's missing out of it, and I can tell you that little chip missing doesn't make it better. But I remember what I disliked about the R screen so much. It really does suck at speeds above 40 miles an hour if you have an XD4 helmet and you're 6 foot tall like I am. The R screen is awful. So I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do. I planned on taking this bike later, in a few days to go to an event, but I was going to lead a street, a pavement ride. I don't think I want to do that with this helmet and windscreen setup. So I'll go home and see, look up and see if anybody's come out with anything to see if I can get something in time. One thing's for sure, the giant loop does make it hard to swing your leg over the bike. It was kind of challenging at the gas pump there. I parked a little too close, and getting off the bike was, I can't say graceful. But I will say that the bike has been beeping at me or blinking at me, saying it's on reserve and down to the last 10 miles. For about the last 10 miles, and I just filled it to the brim, and it took 4.45. So it should have gone to zero at any point. And there's still a fair amount of gas left in there, so something to keep in mind when the bike is warning you. It's not necessarily telling the truth. Not a bad thing. That's all I've got for you this time around, and in another couple weeks we'll see where I'm at and if I have anything to report back.